Triple H has been an amazing booker since taking over WWE, but nobody gets it right all the time. We all make mistakes, just like your parents. But in fact, it is arguable that the following 10 performers actually had it better under the previous administration. So at least we know that some people will be happy if Vince McMahon does make a full comeback. Some, but not many. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, and these are 10 WWE wrestlers Vince McMahon booked better than Triple H. Number 10, Ronda Rousey. The former UFC star quite literally rocked up at WrestleMania 31, coming to the aid of Dwayne Johnson against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Almost 3 years later, the baddest woman on the planet arrived in style at the end of the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. The Vince era did a great job with Rousey from the day she started. Her debut match at WrestleMania 34 was unbelievably fun, and she quickly captured the Raw Women's Championship, reigning for 232 days with the gold. And what about her under Triple H? Well, ever since the disastrous ending to her feud with Liv Morgan, Rousey's stock has been in a bit of a tailspin. It doesn't really help that she constantly looks and acts like she'd literally rather be anywhere else. Trips just hasn't shone the same spotlight on her as the previous regime. Ultimately, this is because the game wants to focus on other women, but it's come at the cost of one of his biggest mainstream stars. Number 9, R-Truth. Say what you want about R-Truth, but at least he was on TV a lot. The former K-Quick really settled into his groove as a comedy wrestler in the mid-2010s, eventually peaking during the early days of the 24/7 Championship. Truth was usually the focal point of that division, appearing in various skits alongside Drake Maverick, Akira Tozawa, and all the other losers WWE had no idea what to do with. He got seriously over thanks to the belt and took part in segments with celebrities ranging from Gronk to Bad Bunny to the Gobbledygooker, who is a celebrity in the turkey community. All this came to an end, though, on the 7th of November 2022 episode of Monday Night Raw, where current 24/7 champion Nikki Cross killed the title stone dead by almost dropping it in a bin. Truth sustaining an injury just days earlier compounded things for the long-standing star, and it's hard to see what place he will have in this new 24/7 titleless version of the WWE. Number 8, Baron Corbin. The booking of Baron Corbin under McMahon was topsy-turvy at best and shite at worst. His time as Constable Corbin and later the Raw GM was the absolute dirt worst. So much so that the company blamed the show's tanking ratings on him in kayfabe. Bit harsh. He may have been overused by the McMahon regime, but at least he was being used. Under new management, Corbin has been paired up with fellow heat magnet and stupid hat enthusiast JBL. The duo had a lot of potential when it first started out, but they eventually found themselves languishing in the lower mid-card, often reduced to silly comedy skits featuring poker. It's hard to call either booker's use of the lone wolf good. I think Vince just about gets the nod. Number 7, Elias. Everyone likes to bang on about that segment in Seattle in 2018 where Elias and Kevin Owens got atomic levels of heat by mentioning the basketball team. Whilst that was definitely a one-off lightning in a bottle type moment, it is worth remembering that Elias was capable of drawing that level of fan interaction once upon a time. The former drifter in NXT, Elias started to get over on the main roster through his comically awful concerts. He got so popular that the fans started to cheer for him, even though everything about his act screamed heel. He competed inside the Elimination Chamber, fought for titles on pay-per-view, and had segments with the likes of Jeff Jarrett, John Cena, and the bloody Undertaker. Although the Ezekiel stuff was a bit dodgy, at least it was a character. Under Triple H, Elias has been totally directionless, playing the part of a proxy Randy Orton alongside Matt Riddle. Hunter didn't even know what to do with him in NXT, as the drifter gimmick didn't go down too well there either. Maybe the game just really hates people who play the guitar, eh? Which is entirely fair. Well, unless you're talking about Rick Boogs. Number 6, Liv Morgan. One of the final acts of Vince McMahon's tenure as head of creative was to grant Liv Morgan the Money in the Bank briefcase and have her cash in to become SmackDown Women's Champion. Fans had been desperate to see Liv win the gold ever since her feud with Becky Lynch in late 2021, early 2022, and they finally got their wish. Little did they know, though, that they had just taken a swig from a rather poisoned chalice. Morgan's reign got off to a horrible start when, in her first major title defense, she picked up a cowardly victory over Ronda Rousey. This went down at SummerSlam, so it could have been a Vince holdover, but that show had enough of Triple H's fingerprints on it to make me think otherwise. The champ's popularity plummeted as she came off increasingly like a fluky winner who didn't really deserve to be where she was, and all this was proven 100% true when she lost the belt back to Rousey at Extreme Rules. Since then, she's been trapped in her hardcore phase, let's be honest, we all have one, and fans really struggle to recognize her as the one we all wanted to win Money in the Bank. Number 5, The New Day. It took a while for Vince McMahon to get The New Day, but thank God he did. We watched them reign for over a year as tag team champions, supported Kofi during his WWE title reign, and when they all reunited when Big E won the same prize, it was magical. All of this went down, of course, under the watchful eye of Vincent K. But what about with his son-in-law? Well, Trips has been hampered somewhat by the fact that Big E is still on the shelf with a neck injury, but let's be honest, he really hasn't done a great deal with Kingston and Woods either. Yes, we know they won the NXT Tag Team Championships, but that felt like they'd been more shunted down to developmental because the main roster had nothing for them. Perhaps things will change if, fingers crossed, when Big E returns, but for now it's safe to say that Triple H is definitely not feeling the power of positivity. Number 4, AJ Styles. When AJ Styles first arrived in WWE back in 2016, the collective internet wrestling community held its breath. He was a guy who had worked for TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Hell, he'd even gotten his start in WCW, for God's sake. If there was anyone less tailor-made for Vince McMahon, I certainly couldn't think of them. And then, miraculously, he was pushed. In his first year in the company, Styles won the top prize, main evented several pay-per-views, and even beat John Cena clean as a sheet. Since then, he's been world champion again, won various other titles, and had high-profile matches at WrestleMania. Since Mr. Helmsley took over, he's felt a bit aimless. He's wrestled for the United States title a few times, feuded with the Judgment Day, and beat Finn Balor at Survivor Series, but none of it ever felt like it was actually going anywhere. Granted, he has been injured since then, but if what we've seen so far is anything to go by, then AJ will not be returning to the lofty heights of his past. And speaking of lofty heights, number 3, Omos. Vince McMahon always said that he knew how to book a giant right, and I'm sure that the great Khali, Giant Gonzalez, King Mabel, and Nathan Jones would all agree with him. Vince's most recent Goliath was Omos, the 7'3" former basketball player who debuted on the main roster as AJ Styles' bodyguard. Alright, before that he was the doorman for Raw Underground, and actually before that he was Kira Tozawa's giant ninja. What a weird few years this man has had. But since Vince left town, Omos has had very little to do. Beyond a scuffle with Braun Strowman at Crown Jewel, he's been solely confined to competing in squash matches on Monday Night Raw. It doesn't seem like Triple H has any idea what to do with him, which must be bringing his father-in-law to the verge of tears. Although technically at time of recording might be facing Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, so there is that. Number 2, Austin Theory. After stealing his golden egg, remember that? Austin Theory was taken under Vince McMahon's flabby old wing as he attempted to teach him something. You couldn't really hear what he was saying, if I was honest. Then came the Pat McAfee debacle at WrestleMania 38, which was simultaneously the best and worst thing to ever happen to pro wrestling. 1 night later, and Theory won the US title. What is going on? It wasn't perfect, far from it, but you know what? Vince McMahon never made his boy look like a total jackass by having him cash in his briefcase on the wrong fucking person. On November the 7th, 2022, Theory made the unbelievably stupid decision to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase on US champion Seth Rollins, a US champion, by the way, who was handing out open challenges like they were bloody tax deductible. Furthermore, he lost to a weakened mid-card champion. Arguably the worst cash-in ever, Triple H completely cacked the bed on this one, although I will say he appears to be cleaning up his mess recently, for now at least. Number 1. Becky Lynch. Remember, folks, Triple H was in charge of booking Becky Lynch before Vince McMahon. In NXT, 3 of the 4 horsewomen got a chance to run with the Women's Championship. The only one to miss out was our favorite last kicker, Becky Lynch. And while she did have great matches down in developmental, Lynch was always seen as the lowest rung on the horsewomen ladder. Fans knew she was good, but were always left wanting a little bit more from the Irish woman. Once on the main roster, though, things started to change. Lynch got put in big matches, was named the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion, and who could forget the rise of the man? Say what you like about all the work Becky put in to get herself over, Vince McMahon still had the final say on her walking out of the WrestleMania 35 main event with both titles. This was more than Triple H could ever give her in NXT, and more than she's been given since he took the reins over on the main roster. The game has had 2 goes at booking big-time Becks, neither of which so far have lived up to the work of Vinnie Mac. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And you can find me on there at Adam Wilborn. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture, and I'll see you soon.